The challenge around innovation is all the same. Innovation and building a culture of innovation doesn't care whether you're a telecoms company or a car manufacturer. Fundamentally, that culture that you're trying to create is all about people. The past 10 years, I've worked with some of the world's biggest organizations, whether it's pharma companies like Roche, whether it's global banks like ING, coaching global leadership teams on how do we really lead in a different way? How do we lead for the future that we want to create? How do we lead so that we can shape the future of our organization? Hi, I'm Cris Beswick and I'm a strategic advisor, a thought leader and a speaker on innovation. So I grew up in and around Manchester. I can't really grumble about my upbringing, I suppose. I had a great family. You know, my mum was an absolute trooper. My mum worked so many jobs. And it's always, mum that created that really nurturing upbringing, if you like, as a young boy, so 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. But what I really, really wanted at that age was I wanted to spend time with my dad. But my dad was always away, he was always working away, hard worker. My dad had a couple of hobbies, one of them was motorbikes. So you can imagine as a kid, oh great, my dad's home this weekend, we get to go out on the bike. My dad really never wanted to do that. That was one of the memories I've got at that time. How do I continue being inspired by someone that doesn't really want me involved? And ironically, I see that play out now in the organizations that I advise from a leadership point of view. How do we really follow this person? How do we go on the journey with this leader, with this CEO, with this leadership team, when they're not really giving me a sense as an employee that they really want us to follow them on that journey? They're not giving me anything that's really inspiring. Because my dad for me was that leader, that CEO that I wanted to follow, and I just never really got the sense that he was really that interested in me at the time. So the next phase of my life, like most boys my age, was secondary school. That's when the problems start to kick in. Bullied at school. I didn't dislike school, I just wasn't very good at school, right? But bullying was a big issue for me. Tall, skinny, bit of a wimp. And then I got into Thai boxing, so Muay Thai. And then the game changed for me, because that's when I found something that really, really resonated. What comes with that is confidence, a technical ability to know and see things that you know you can get better. What comes with that is discipline. And it was a way of positioning myself and my brand and who people thought I was in a slightly different way. And the challenge with growing up in that area at the time is you either take a positive path or you take a negative path. And that path for me was then education. That path for me was university, and that path for me was getting a degree. So 4 years later, then I enter the world of work, straight into an organization, and that's when I saw the challenges of the corporate world. Because 18 months later, I hand my notice in. And what I saw with the organization I was working at was complacency, was, hey, we're doing all right. We're doing good money, the business is turning over. Why do we need to go that extra mile? Why do we need to do more? Why do we need to be any better than we are today? And my belief was that that organization constraining itself from being really, really creative, really, really innovative, was also in part constraining me and was holding me back from things that I knew could be done much better. Fast forward a couple of years, I've started my next company. Design, strategy, experimentation, testing, learning, and coaching leaders how to do the same. Working with organizations around the world, well-known brands around the world. And one of the proudest moments for me was in the early 2000s was my dad came to work for me. So was this validation? Have I got that validation now? Dad comes to work for me, he comes to run my companies, and we had great success. So I had a brilliant team of people. On the face of it, utopia. But behind the scenes, I'm burnt out. But what I've always been good at is self-awareness. But in 2007, I knew I had to go and do something else. So I picked up the phone, I phoned one of my directors and I said, I'm out. So 2008, I exit my company on September the 9th, 2008. For those of you that recognize that date or know time of year in 2008, Lehman Brothers crashed 5-6 days later. What does Cris want to do next? Who is Cris? What does he want to do? What does he want to become? What's the next journey that he wants to take? And in 2010, I condensed all that together and I wrote my first book. And what that did was that propelled me onto the stage. And for many, many years, I delivered keynotes to organizations and at conferences all over the world on how we genuinely as leaders build cultures of innovation. That culminated in 2015 with starting to write the next book, which is the book that everyone knows me for, Building a Culture of Innovation. And since then, I've traveled the world working with CEOs and leadership teams on how they can do the same. So for the past 10 years, I've worked with some of the world's biggest organizations. And as a strategic advisor, as a thought leader on innovation, on the strategy, leadership and culture that innovation takes, I've worked with senior teams on a whole host of interventions, whether that's redesigning strategy for innovation, whether it's coaching global leadership teams around the world on how do we really lead in a different way? How do we lead for the future that we want to create? That culture that you're trying to create is all about people. It's about how you build the right kind of culture for those people to drive innovation for you, and how as a leader you lead so that that culture is alive and kicking every day. That's the kind of thing that I do for clients all over the world.